Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Living and Working in, which today is dedicated to India. India is a very important country for Sciences Po. We have more than 200 alumni in the country, 12 partner universities, but of course we will have the chance to discuss it more in details thanks to the presence of Neha Khanna, who is Sciences Po representative in the Delhi office, and she will tell us more about Indian presence in Sciences Po. First of all, let me thank all our guest speakers who are alumni based in India, and they will share with us their experiences, their impressions about a career, how to build a career in India, but also how life is in India. We all know that India has a very nice cultural taste, so I hope we will also discuss about personal life. The first part, we will have a sort of roundtable in which our guest speakers will share with us their impressions, their biography, their suggestions, and the second part will be a Q&A. So please start thinking about your questions. You can use the chat box or you can raise your hand in the second part. Feel free to turn on your camera to make it more friendly. And I leave the floor to Neha Khanna, who kindly accepted to join this webinar and explain us the links between Sciences Po and India.
Thank you so much, Camila. Thank you for organizing this. And it's such a pleasure to be here and talking to our students and alumni. It's amazing. Well, I'll just be brief and I'll just give a background to our Indian presence. So we opened our first office in India in the year 2007. And I joined the team in 2012. So I'm one of the bricks of Sciences Po in India. So I'll just quickly take you through. I started with, I think, 9 applications to Sciences Po in 2012. So it was a very small student number. So in India, primarily, we are looking at 13 academic partnerships with top universities and colleges of the country spread across the country, both public and private universities. And we are soon going to be 15. So we've signed 2 new partnerships, one with St. Stephen's College in Delhi and one with Kriya University in Chennai. And this involves fostering collaborations between educational institutions to enhance learning opportunities on both sides, India and France, and of course, encouraging more research. Then the second aspect of our presence in India is media management, to strategically handle all sorts of communication channels and to promote our educational initiatives, and also to cultivate a positive public image. Then we, of course, look at building and maintaining alumni networks, which is a crucial player in fostering lifelong connections and support systems among both current and former students. And additionally, we look at student recruitment. That involves getting a great talent pool from India to Sciences Po in France to get our student community diverse and vibrant. So these activities actually contribute to the growth and success of educational institutions, our partners here in India, and then we gain a lot in our classroom at Sciences Po. And then I leave the floor to our lovely alumni group that has gathered here today to actually share their experiences with us.
Thank you very much, Neha. And I think today is interesting because we have alumni who studied in Sciences Po in different years. We have Tuhin, who graduated in 2007, Dipinder in 2009, and Neha Vijay in 2018. So we have 10 years change in which I guess the Indian presence has increased. So it will be also useful to maybe share your views about this. I will ask Dipinder to explain us his story and why he came to Sciences Po and then decided to come back to India. What are his opinions or his views about this experience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Camilla, and welcome all of you, especially the students who are here. I joined Sciences Po in 2007. This was for the 2-year MPA course, same as Tuhin, a little bit after him. I did the GPPN, so exchange with LSE. So 7-8, I was in Paris at Sciences Po, and 8-9, I was in LSE in London. The reason I'm an engineer otherwise and an entrepreneur. So social sciences as a whole was a new thing for me. And I really I was concerned about India as a country and development related issues. That's the word I would use now, which I learned at MPA and both at Sciences Po and LSE. But that was the motivation, and this was a very nice course. It was available in English, and it was okay to take in engineers without an undergrad in social sciences. What I learned was that, and my focus was completely India, though I was studying outside India. And what I learned was that market-related reforms, governance reforms, is probably the solution to what I was looking for in India. And I met some people in London who were working towards that, a political route to that. So we eventually created a small political party also, which I'm a member of, and it continues. So that's a very direct result of that pursuit. But market-related means it sort of reasserted my motivation on the entrepreneurial track. So that's why I continue to be an entrepreneur. I'm a techie entrepreneur, computer vision AI, video AI. And currently, I've just now started a new venture, which is focused on health as a vertical. And we are looking at US and European markets as well. So that's my story in brief. We could discuss further when we chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipinder. Very, very nice. And maybe it will be interesting to compare also your experience in Sciences Po and the one in LSE, and what you learned and you could apply as an engineer and tech entrepreneur in India. So very, very interesting combination of skills and experience. Now I leave the floor to Tuhin. So Tuhin, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Camilla. Thanks, Neha, and thanks for the entire alumni community to have joined the call. So that's to start with. And my experience of being an alumni member goes back all the way to 2007, and it has been a brilliant experience. And I stay committed to being connected to Sciences Po in every possible way that I can. And the first year I saw such a huge gathering. So that really kind of assured me that we have a large community to interact with when I came back from Paris. But coming back to my story, so what sent me to Sciences Po? The advertising industry, long and short of it. So I was selling Coca-Cola. And at some point in time, I realized that that can't be my life, selling Coca-Cola or some brand or the other to a largely developing country. And all we did in business was to work for Anglo-Saxon companies. So the brands were Anglo-Saxon brands, pretty much. The companies I worked for were either headquartered in London or New York. So long and short of it, everything was Anglo-Saxon. So I figured that there must be another worldview that I am totally not acquainted with. And that's the reason I thought if I go back to graduate school, I should go to Europe and not to the standard pathway of going to either the US or the UK. In fact, I was dead against going to the UK. So that's the reason I chose Sciences Po, and I could not have been happier in retrospect. Coming back to careers, I have so far had 3 careers, one in advertising, So that was before Sciences Po. After graduating from Sciences Po, I worked in international development at a company called the Global Development Network, which is a spin-off of the World Bank Group. And it was started by Joe Stiglitz in the Washington, D.C. office. So it's a research development organization, which is incidentally headquartered in India. But now the operational headquarters have moved to the University of Clermont-Ferrand in France. And that's also one of the reasons I did not want to go there, because I thought leaving India to go back to Clermont-Ferrand at that stage of my life wasn't really a great idea. No offense meant to GDN. And then I worked for an economic consulting company for a short while. And then I came to the International Air Transport Association, where I work currently. So I lead the external affairs function for India, Nepal, and Bhutan. And to give you a sense of the market, India sells about $13 billion worth of air tickets in a year. And the overall travel and tourism industry is expected to touch $430 billion US by 2030. Now, this is just a market perspective, but as a development-oriented person, like Dipinder mentioned, the numbers mean nothing, but the numbers mean connectivity to a country, and for a country where there are few modes of transport that will bring goods, people, and connections to the farthest flung corners of the country. So that's how I look at India, and it's integrally tied to my specialization at Sciences Po, which is economic and territorial development. I also, as a graduate student there, worked on a capstone which was supervised by the OECD. And the professor was Mario Pezzini, who used to be a faculty at Sciences Po, as well as the director for the governance division at that point in time. And the kind of opportunities Sciences Po gave me were amazing, because I ended up being a contributor to OECD's seminal publication of the Regional Reviews of Innovation in 2007. It's a book which is of immense value to every development professional who sees development through the lens of the market. And again, there, I think markets have a role to play in development. And that's what I'm passionate about. In terms of location, I have done funny things like worked in Ahmedabad, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi. So every city taught me a lot about India and the idiosyncrasies. Just to give you a short example, in Ahmedabad, when I moved there as a trainee, we couldn't have eaten eggs and we couldn't have drunk alcohol. So if you had to have an egg for breakfast, you put the eggshells in a packet and you had to throw it somewhere other than the neighborhood you used to live in. So on our way to office, we used to find a garbage bin in some other neighborhood, dropped off the eggshells and went to office. So that was my experience in Ahmedabad. And then I'll leave you with another anecdote, which is absolutely gut-splitting. So when I used to live in Bombay, Bombay is a very difficult rental market for someone who's starting out a career. So the Air India colony used to sublet their apartments to struggling youngsters. So there I was looking for an apartment, and the gentleman, the landlord, said, let's go to a photo studio and click a photo with me and my wife. So I said, why? He said, if there's a raid, if there's a compliance raid, I'll put our photo on the wall and say you're part of my family. So all kinds of stuff that happens in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuhin. It was very interesting to hear this anecdote. And I think we will have the opportunity to deepen about different cities regarding opportunities and also real life experience. Now I leave the floor to Neha Vijay. Sorry, maybe I should pronounce it differently. How shall I pronounce your surname?
It's fine. You were absolutely right. It's Neha Vijay.
Okay, so please tell us about your story.
Thank you. Well, it's very hard to go after Tuhin and his anecdotes. I think mine are not that interesting, but sure, I'm going to give it a shot. Well, before that, thank you, Camilla, for organizing this and all of the students who are attending. I really hope that you guys learn something useful from our experiences while making your current or future plans for living and working in India. I'm Neha. I attended a one-year master's program, Advanced Global Studies at Sciences Po, specializing in international security in 2018. Like Dipinder, I'm also a software engineer. So I was a software engineer at the beginning of my career. And then I suddenly decided I don't want to be a software engineer. And I dramatically switched my career to security. So I started doing with counterterrorism operations first for the Indian government. And then I had a chance to work with Singapore law enforcement, Philippines law enforcement, especially because of my tech background. That was the time when governments were learning about doing open source intelligence and conducting investigations on information that's available online, on internet, particularly on social media platforms. And me coming from tech background helped me learn those technologies faster and to be able to help those governments. So that's how I started. And then before I knew it, I was very deep into the security work. And I realized that I really like doing it. And this is where I see myself working for the rest of my life. But then I also had the realization around 2016 that most of my work has been in the Asia Pacific region. I do not know how security is dealt with in other parts of the world. And all of what I have learned about security was through practical work. So I also genuinely wanted to understand the theoretical aspects of security and the stuff that law enforcement doesn't tell you or the government doesn't tell you, right? The societal aspects of it or impact on the people. So I decided that I'm going to take a break from my career and going to do a master's. And I felt that Europe, particularly France, would be the right place to do it. Because at that time, after the 2015 Charlie Hebdo attacks, France was still in the state of emergency. And after ISIS influx in the region in 2014, there was still huge amount of influx of refugees in France. So I wanted to see and understand how that is dealt with on the ground as well. So I chose Sciences Po. And as Tuhin said, I couldn't have been happier with my decision. I learned a lot. Like, it's hard to express that in words, how much I learned, how much of global perspective I gained in Sciences Po. And Sciences Po also not just taught me theoretical aspects, but you also have your international leaders and sometimes state heads giving you special lectures, right? So it provided you the opportunity to understand how state heads perceive security, what are their priorities, and that understands craft and lead operations on the ground. So that just opened up my horizon. And ever since I came back, I have not worked in APAC anymore. Since I came back from Sciences Po, I have been leading global security operations for different organizations. I was heading the security functions for Wikimedia Foundation that runs Wikipedia. Then I was with Facebook for some time. Recently, I was leading the geopolitical intelligence head for Netflix. And right now I am heading cybersecurity operations of a network infrastructure provider. So yeah, Sciences Po opened up that horizon. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. And it was very rich, your journey, if I can. And maybe, are you based in Bangalore, right? So could you please explain us how is Bangalore compared to maybe to Delhi? Then we will have Dipinder and Tuhin who are based in Delhi and will explain us about Delhi, but maybe just a few words about Bangalore.
Of course.
Work opportunities.
I absolutely love Bangalore. So some of my opinion could be biased here, to take that as with a pinch of salt. And I definitely feel it's better than Delhi, but Tuhin and Dipinder are free to disagree. I had been to Bangalore once before I went to Sciences Po. And after Sciences Po, I was fortunate enough to get a job that allowed me to be remote 100% of the time. And I was in Delhi also right before Sciences Po. I was in 7 months in Delhi and a couple of weeks in Bangalore. And when I came back and I had the opportunity to work remotely, I decided not to go to Delhi and Bangalore because of the weather was amazing. B, it's a very fast moving tech environment that I resonate more with. So I thought if it's a global operations running remotely, I think Bangalore would be the place to do it. So I started there and I do not regret my decision at all. I sometimes miss being in the circles of the government and think tank and international organization sphere that Delhi provides you. But for technical operations, Bangalore has been great. It provides you with a good lifestyle. Everything is very fast moving. The culture I resonate more with. And it's a very easy living environment, except for the traffic. You will hear horrible stories about Bangalore traffic. But if you're in remote environment and techie, honestly, people don't leave their houses in Bangalore. You get everything done being in their houses and running 2 startups while being in your house. So Bangalore provides you that environment. But I think overall, there are very much similarities amongst metro cities in India, but at the core, they are also very different from one another. So it's very hard to generalize, and I'm sure Dipinder and Tuhin will touch upon it. So for example, very basic things. Sometimes, and India runs on multiple economies, right? There is an economy for poor people. There's an economy for middle class. There's an economy for upper middle class. There's an economy for ultra rich. But beyond that, when you move from one city to another, the economy also changes completely. For example, Mumbai and Bangalore, you both call them metro cities, but if you just compare the rent prices, sometimes it's incomparable. You cannot, whereas everything else would be comparable. So there are a lot of nuances that are very hard to generalize. But overall, Bangalore as a city, I have found it very balanced in terms of the quality of living, the cost of living, the connectivity it provides to the rest of the country and to the rest of the world, and ease of access. So that's what my impression of the city has been.
Thank you, Neha. So now I will ask Dipinder, since he's a tech entrepreneur, why did he choose to build his business in Delhi and not in Bangalore?
Oh,
maybe it is a personal question, but
this is because I did my undergrad in technology from Delhi, IIT Delhi, and my business, this was in 2002. So a few years before I went to Sciences Po, was co-founded with professors and batchmates from the engineering school. And we were incubated in the university's business incubation center. So Delhi was sort of a very natural choice. Because I ended up in Delhi for my undergrad, rest of it has followed. That's really the reason. But if let's say I had the choice in the entrepreneurial startup ecosystem, especially the tech entrepreneurial ecosystem, Bangalore is sort of the biggest ecosystem, but Delhi is a close second. And then third would be maybe Mumbai, Pune. They are very different cities. So Neha touched upon that we can discuss. But if somebody's looking at setting up a tech business, these are big ecosystems in India. So I hope I answered your question, Camilla.
Thank you, Dipinder. And Tuhin, what is your view about, since you had professional experiences, apart from eating eggs, what are your views and impressions about different cities, where you see maybe more opportunities for someone who is projecting a career in India?
So in terms of opportunity, I must say that Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi kind of offers equivalent amount of opportunities in any field that you may specialize in. Depends, if you were to say, take media, for example. then I would recommend Bombay, with Delhi coming a close second. Then Bangalore is, of course, tech, fintech, other sectors, biotech, as I understand. Delhi is, interestingly, a city which gives you a sort of a well-rounded package, but it's not a city for the faint-hearted. It's as simply put as that. It's a hard-driving city. It's a city of hustle, like I have never seen in any part of the world. I know New York to a certain extent because the companies I worked for many years were headquartered in New York. But even New York pales in comparison. It's that hard driving. It's also partly because being a developing country, there's always a bitter fight for resources. You have to eke your, space out of nothing, from nothing literally. But the good thing about Delhi is that if you ask someone whether this piece of work could be done, no Delhiite would ever say no. Even if or she has zero idea about how to go about that piece of work. No is not an answer you would expect in Delhi. So that's also a part of the culture, because if you were to look at it historically, it's the city which has been beset with multiple political upheavals, partition of the country. It has kind of scarred it in many ways, and that kind of shaped the psyche of the people who live here. And in terms of scale, it's gargantuan. I think now from one end to the city to the other, it's about 60 kilometers, right? So when I went to Sao Paulo, I thought no city can get bigger than Sao Paulo, because from the airplane, you can't see the contours. So that's where in 2005, when I used to be a student at Sciences Po. But then from 2005 to 2024, Delhi is a different story. It has just grown and grown and grown. So opportunity-wise, enough and more. All the diplomatic missions are here. So that gives it a sort of a clear idea about the geopolitical shifts. And you get to hear the buzz about what's happening. So it's like in the Western Hemisphere, if you were to live in Washington, D.C., for example, and you often hear about the Beltway conversations or conversations within the Beltway. Delhi is something like that. You know the people who move the markets, the people who move the political circles, you know the people who move the conversations in the epistemic communities. So that would be my two-bit on a city like Delhi. But it's not an easy place to live. But the point is, for someone who's young and coming from a Sciences Po background, if you were to choose Delhi for a place to live and to work for a few years, that will probably prepare you for life in any city of the world. That I can say with confidence. Thank you.
Camilla, if I could add, for those of you who have not been to India or don't know much, you should look at India as Europe. As in, Europe is probably the closest entity in terms of the linguistic and the diversity. So Delhi and Bombay means let's say Sweden and France, or not directly. I mean, it can be that different in terms of the language and culture and geographically, but then the metro cities are very cosmo. You'll have people from everywhere. Neha Khanna can probably highlight how many Sciences Po India alums are, what is the distribution in terms of different cities, but Delhi is the capital of the country, so more government and also more including the diplomatic missions, etc. And that's why probably for Sciences Po, there are, for people looking at government and non-government related sectors, there might be more opportunities in Delhi, right? But then there are differences, some of which are coming out through the anecdotes and what everyone shared. But yeah, that's sort of the frame in which you could look at India and different cities. Neha, you want to add, what is the distribution? I believe the largest number of alums for Sciences Po are in Delhi NCR, right?
Still in Delhi, yes. So still in Delhi, but we are nicely spread out. We have a presence in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, some in Calcutta, some in the mountains as well, Hyderabad. So we are nicely spread out. But yes, Delhi still stands strong in terms of our alumni representation in India. And of course, I mean, the diversity, as both of you bring out, is immense. So India is something. A very famous historian of Cambridge University once said, and I can't remember her name from the top of my head, but she said that everything that you hear and consider true about India, exactly the opposite is also true about India. So come to India for being surprised, and you'd learn so much. This is an immense learning opportunity. I mean, we are urbanizing at a very fast rate, and programs of Sciences Po are very, very topical now in a country like ours.
Thank you, Neha. And indeed, in Delhi, you recently organized a very interesting conference with Arantxa Gonzalez. And I saw that most activities are in Delhi. So Delhi would be maybe the first choice for students and alumni from Sciences Po in terms of opportunities and network. But I would like to ask you, before opening the floor to the Q&A, maybe just to give us, for an international audience, what is Indian professional culture? If you can sum up maybe in a few sentences, according to your sector, according to your experience, are there any specific suggestions or informations to be done regarding professional culture? Maybe we can start again from Dipinder, Tuhin, Neha, or as you like.
Sure. Neha, Tuhin, please go ahead. I'm thinking, what is Indian professional culture? I believe the professional culture, at least let's say in the tech world, is not very different. It's probably driven by sector. So the culture in a tech company or a tech startup, whether it is in US or in India or possibly in Europe, is likely to be similar. I find lots of similarities, but it varies across sectors quite a lot, right? So if it is FMCG versus tech versus, let's say, the government, there would be big differences. But the Indian tech culture, for example, the tech professional culture versus the American is sort of probably similar, right? There is that difference. The thing that Tuhin mentioned in terms of nobody will say a no, including techies, in terms of can they do something? Can they build a secure website, Neha? They'll say yes, whether they know that or not. So, but that has been figured out between the Americans and, I mean, people already know that, so they buffer that. But that's something I've heard. That might be a difference within the sectors also. But yeah, that's what I would say. So in some, it's very Cosmo, and at least in these big cities, it is driven by the sector. And because it is integrated in the global economy, the culture sort of blends and merges. And English is the professional language mostly for most sectors, definitely in tech. And so, that's the English-speaking tech world all behaves in the same way now. Tuhin, Neha?
I would absolutely, from the tech sector world, sorry, Tuhin, because it's similar. Dipinder has almost said what I wanted to say. that it highly depends on the sector. And I have spent a majority of my life in the tech world, and I see that it's very global. The culture is extremely global. I would say, as Dipinder said, the culture between US, India, and some countries in South and Southeast Asia are more similar. Europe somehow feels a little different if you just leave out London and Dublin, where most of the tech companies are usually based. So the culture copies what's followed in their headquarter. But usually it's a very fast culture, English speaking tech culture, and operates in very similar fashion because it's not isolated anymore. Every organization is providing either services outside or having employees from different cultures and companies. So it's very spread out. So it's very global. I think some of that now reflects in government and other sectors as well, but Tuhin would be able to comment better on that.
So I'll answer that in 3 different ways, given the fact that I have had 3 careers. In the advertising industry, which is very global, you would have a 90-hour work week, as simple as that. Like, don't even ask for a weekend or a Sunday. You're constantly on call. Or you're constantly on a plane, going somewhere or the other. And that kind of mirrors the New York model. Only problem is that Indian advertising is even harder, because a 90-hour work week without New York infrastructure. So that's what it boils down to. So questions like work-life balance, don't even ask. No one has the time to think about that. It's just that hard driving, because you're constantly seeking growth. Companies are bursting at the seams with what you would call the order books. So that's the advertising industry. An interesting story is that, so when I worked for the large multinational accounts at this company called J. Walter Thompson, which used to be headquartered in New York, it's just changed its name. So I had visibility to the timesheet of people on the account across the world. So on a random day, I was just looking at timesheets in Tokyo. So they were high, 70s, 80s. India, 90, 92, 93. Then I saw Greece, somewhere in 35, 40. Right. And then again in New York, it's 90 upwards. So that's the way the workflow flowed at that point in time. So this was when I was in the Shell account. And Shell wasn't really a really busy account. A Coca-Cola is a busy account, or a Procter & Gamble, or a Unilever. So that's the comparison. When you come to international organizations such as an IATA or GDN at the World Bank, that is exactly like you would expect an international organization, with a bit of Indian tinge of working, say, a weekend or the other. But in GDN, for example, it was a pure no, that your work-life balance had to be respected come what may. But then it was the World Bank DNA that GDN carried and still carries. And where I work now is again international. So it kind of follows the international norms of behavior or corporate behavior. I worked for a small consulting company, which is purely Indian. I didn't survive there more than 1.5 years. So compliance was off the charts. There was no compliance, right? Governance was bizarre. And for some reason, when I joined, I figured that these guys will never be able to scale, and they did not. So, but on the other hand, if you see the Indian IT companies, they're massive companies. They're gigantic. So again, within the Indian-owned companies, there's a vast difference in terms of the capability and the ability to scale an enterprise. So again, there is no single India. Again, there are multiple sectors, multiple ways to cut the same data. There is something for everybody to learn and grow from. So I used to hear from people in the aerospace manufacturing industry that if you have spent some time in the Indian market, you're definitely going to get a boost in your career. For example, I know this guy called Stefan Dohe, who used to be the country head for CFM, the engine makers. So one day I was having lunch with Stefan, and Stefan said, look, I'm about to leave India and move to a bigger role. And he said, I have to thank India for having made me the way I am. But again, my view is purely driven by three factors of being in the advertising industry, then international development, and then international advocacy. So that's my perspective. But yeah, don't expect a weekend.
Thank you, Tuhin. These, I think, are useful information, especially for French.
Camilla, on the weekend bit,
35 hours regime.
No. I do want to add on the work-life balance and weekend. See, sectors like tech, which are totally dependent on talent and talent hungry. I guess all sectors are, but there is like a talent war in tech at least. And there, it's like this would be sold and adhered to as a way to attract talent. So, this company would say that this is what we are doing for our team members, and absolutely work-life balance and so many other things, nice things that will happen to you at work. So that is driving it towards cultures, and especially those companies which grow and want to grow. It's really like that. What will young people, what will talented people like? And so it can be very different. Again, in tech, you can expect a weekend and more.
Thank you, Dipinder. I see that we have 2 questions in the chat box. So I don't know if Vishalin, you would like to ask it directly, or I will read it. Are there potential challenges for a French student aiming to work in India? What advice can you offer for navigating both professional and personal life in India? I don't know, Vishalin, if you want to complete the question. Or...
Right, thank you for your time. No, I think it's clear. Like my questions are clear, and I don't have anything to add on.
Okay, so let me take that, because I have had French interns from Sciences Po when I worked in advertising. So this young lawyer called Aurelia Ponce, who was there at Saatchi & Saatchi where I worked. No, I was there in contract then, yeah. So you get to learn a lot. And I remember taking her for my first client meeting with her as an intern. So opportunities like that are there because we are a growing market, number one. Number two, I think from a purely housekeeping point of view, you need to meet our criterion, which is US $25,000 as salary, to be able to get a work visa. So that is something you have to have a clear chat with your company or who's hiring you. So that's one precondition that you have. You face absolutely no discrimination that I can vouch for, because I have had French colleagues and people who reported to me who were French across various organizations that I worked for. So that's the good bit. And of course, if you're coming to India, you are of a certain level of English proficiency, which is good, because India, again, is an English-speaking country, but everybody doesn't speak English. So you have a pretty much level playing field. So don't worry about English at all. Adjustments regarding culture, food, climate, is something that you would probably do a bit, but then climate-wise, if you were to work in Africa, you will find the same kind of hot tropical climate there as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
Micheline,
Yeah.
do you have an India Connect? You have been visiting here, or this is the first time you're considering landing here for your program?
Actually, I'm Sri Lankan, and I would like to work in India because I had some friends there, and I worked for an NGO, and we have project in Mumbai 2 years ago. So that's why I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
In fact, if I were to, sorry, go ahead, Neha.
Go ahead, Tuhin, go ahead. Finish.
So in fact, I spoke at a conference once organized by Learn Asia, LIRNEASIA, which is headed by Rohan Samarajiva. And I also partnered one of the top think tanks of Sri Lanka for a workshop that I was holding in Colombo. So feel free to get in touch with Rohan. I could make a connect between you and Rohan. Rohan, I think, is based now in the US. And he has worked extensively in India. And at some point in time, he was pretty much living in Delhi and collaborating with IIT Delhi regarding ICT access for development.
Okay.
So I could connect you with a bunch of folks in Sri Lanka who could definitely give you a sense of India as a market to work in.
Okay.
The think tank space between Sri Lanka and Delhi is pretty integrated. There are multiple exchanges between the two countries you could benefit from.
Yeah, I have some origins from Sri Lanka, but I'm French. So I have my parents come from Sri Lanka. So I have more connection. I went more often to India than Sri Lanka because of the situation of the country.
Okay. But you would find it absolutely no problem to integrate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, look at it numerically. Delhi, I think, is a city, for example. Delhi as a particular example, 28 million people live here. It's just, I think, 2 million shy of Tokyo. And infinitely more chaotic.
Yeah, just to add to what Tuhin said, Vishaleen, it would be different in every city in India. So I could gather that you're considering Mumbai. So Mumbai, the challenge is that the rent is something that needs to be factored in because it's very different from other cities in the country. So if your place of work, if your salary allows, then it's better that you stay close by within the neighborhood because traveling in Mumbai takes longer. While Delhi is a much, much bigger city, but Mumbai is linear because it's by the sea. So it depends. As Neha mentioned, Bangalore has crazy traffic as well. So it's advisable that you are close to your workplace as well. Get a good medical health insurance as well. In a country like ours, it's a tropical country and you're exposed to a lot as soon as you land here. Mostly people are fine. So I'm not trying to scare you. But at times we've had episodes where, because in Delhi, the temperature reaches 49 degrees in summers. So 49 degrees is inhuman temperature for most people who are not used to a tropical heat. So for temperatures like these, it's just better that you have a solid, not a third-party medical insurance, but a good medical insurance if you're traveling to cities with extreme climate. Some young students go for trekking into the mountains because Delhi is very close to mountains as well. So it's just advisable that you're registered with the French embassy here and the embassy is informed of your arrival and your stay in India. And also they kind of invite you to different events that are hosted and organized for the French community in the country. So it's just good to actually be part of this network. Other than that, it's an international community at Sciences Po. There'd be global challenges and some local challenges, which would be different from city to city. But because you've been a part of Sciences Po, you would enjoy most of them and sail through them smoothly. I have now seen students arriving here for a very long time now, and I don't see Herculean ones now, Herculean challenges at all. So I think you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Just to add to what Neha said, you have the advantage of having a community which is based here. We know Bombay as well as we know Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you want some intelligence with the company that you're going to work for, we can dig every bit of information out. So who are the directors? What are the prospects for the company? Whether they're nice people or not, we can guide you with all that. So you would not be in a position where you are suffering from information asymmetry. That would never happen. Plus, there are alumni members based in Bombay. We are available on a phone call anytime to help you kind of integrate. And personally speaking, I can connect you with both the both the French alumni members who were there when I came back from Paris, Aurelia, who's a lawyer, and Coraline Dumesnil, who is again a lawyer. Both are based in Paris. And if you want, I could connect you with them so that you can have a chat with them regarding living in India. And also not to forget Delphine Ju. Delphine used to be a very pivotal member of the alumni community who was based here, and she used to head a law firm in Delhi. And she serves on the board, the global board of Schneider, now based in Paris. So all these people would be for you to, get in touch with should you need any information, both in France as well as in India.
Thank you.
Well, I see that we have many questions and not a long time. So what about Jaipur? Do you have any recommendation about development of the luxury market in India as a French national? And is it difficult for a foreigner to open his own business in India? I think this question is quite interesting. Maybe Dipinder as a...
Yeah, so you can, it should not be difficult. There is a need, I think, to have an Indian citizen as one of the directors if you are opening a private limited company. I am helping an American and a French guy who have opened an Indian entity. I'm that director. For them. Excuse me. But it should not be difficult in terms of the legalities.
No, you also have the IFKI to guide you. In fact, there's an architecture company, French architecture company called Ultra Confidential, which is doing amazing stuff in India. Like they're the top-notch firm in their domain right now. And it's a French company. So through IFKI, you can be guided, about the nuts and bolts of opening a business.
That too, and I think
it's a superbly, it's a superbly organized chamber. Superb.
And you can also get in touch with Business France at the French Embassy. So Business France would also guide you on the next steps. And Jaipur, I think, would be a good city because it's a tourist spot. It's a luxury market in the sense of traditional craftsmanship, meeting royal patronage and contemporary trends. So it's no longer a second-tier city now in India. It's very cosmopolitan. The quality of life is so much better than Delhi. It's close to Delhi as well. So why not? I don't see any impediments. Go ahead. I think it's a cool choice to be in Jaipur. It's huge.
There's a gentleman based. Oh, it's a beautiful city. Apart from that, there's a gentleman who used to be an advisor to Louis Vuitton. His name is Tikka Satrujit Singh. again, a member of a royal family who is very much part of the French luxury business.
Depending on what kind of luxury business, yeah, we could connect separately. If it is into furniture, etc., for example, then I can offer more insights.
And I see other questions regarding NGOs in India. Maybe it's for Tuhin. Could you cite some international organizations that work in the development and sustainability sector other than UNDP and GDN, and also considering the 25K USD salary condition?
IDRC, then the JPAL. So these are the two top ones that come into my mind. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has an immense portfolio in India. Then the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation, 3IE. Then DIMAGI, DIMAGI, the MIT spinoff. Then Digital Green. So these are some of the top companies or NGOs that are active in India. And there's also the other one called ID Insight, which is again an impact evaluation company. So because it's such a large market, you will find many organizations finding a niche for themselves. And by niche, I don't mean a 10-member company. I mean 50 upwards. So these are sort of mid-sized companies that you can be part of, and quite vibrant. And all of them are organized as NGOs. So they are not really like a for-profit company. Yeah. These are just a few that I remembered. And I have not worked for international development for quite some time now. But in the intervening period, there could be even more companies in India.
I think just to add to this now, like there's a corporate social responsibility mandate on all companies actually. So 5% of your revenue has to be given to the social sector, to community building. So I think most, like all Fortune 500 companies are working within the development sector in some capacity, because it's a rule now. So they are mandated to. So we have Oxfam, we have WWF, we have Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children. I mean, different companies are working with different development initiatives with the community now. So I think there's no dearth of this option after this law has been passed. So
thank you. I see that there is another question regarding internship opportunities for students who are in the third year in India. So this question is from Jeanne and from Lena. Do you have any tips, or maybe we can contact you later if Sciences Po has maybe Sciences Po Carrière has a.
They would obviously have more information on this, but I'll be very brief. If your internship is for 2 months, it's fine. Like you can apply through the internship visa. Or if it is more than that, then you need to be paid 600 euros a month. And getting an internship that pays you 600 euros a month is next to impossible in India. So we advise students to get a letter from Sciences Po stating that it's part of their study trip and this exposure is part of the curriculum, and then they can come here on a student visa, which is easier. But getting an internship visa for longer than 2 months would need an evidence of you getting paid 600 euros a month. So it's a bit of a challenge.
And we also have a question, and maybe then we will conclude, since we already it's already more than later than 8 p.m. in Delhi, so our guest speaker must be tired. Regarding the double degree with Tata in Mumbai, Tata Institute, do you have any suggestions for living in Mumbai, and do you have any connections, contacts to share with Niels?
I mean, it's one of the biggest cities in India, and Tata Institute is a very cool place to study in. 7th April is your application deadline. So yeah, we'll get you connected to the team at TIS, and they can probably guide you on student accommodations after you have received an admission offer on the dual degree, or I'm not sure if you already have one. But yeah, it's a very student-friendly place, Mumbai. It's a hub of premium educational institutions in India. So you would not be actually struggling to get a decent accommodation there. And TIS has a huge campus as well, and they have student accommodation provisions as well on campus. So we can discuss it if you have the admission offer. So please write to me if you have one, or when you have one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. No, like the deadline is in a month, more or less. So I don't have I'm just applying for now, but I was interested in asking this question as well, because moving to India is not just moving to another country in Europe, at least for me, because I'm European. And so thank you for your answer, and I might send you an email then to get more information.
Okay, I have put down my email address in the chat box, but I'm not sure if it has reached the entire group or just the panelists. So just see if it's visible to you.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
I've also added, there is a WhatsApp group of SciencePo India alums or SciencePo alums who are interested in India. You need not be, I've put the link for that if you want to join that.
Yes,
Thanks.
I think this is just a first insight about living and work in India, but the most important thing is to connect with alumni, thanks to our guest speakers who are here, Tuhin, Dipinder, and Neha, and thanks to Neha Khanna representing SciencePo in the Delhi office. And I think you will organize other networking events, after works, different activities, and these are also opportunities to connect and to receive career suggestions and tips. So please register. It is very important. I put in the chat box the link to the Indian chapter, so you can register to receive future invitations to all activities from the Indian chapter. And maybe there will be activities in Jaipur as well, since we have students interested in Jaipur or in Bangalore or in Chennai. We can also try to organize different afterworks in many cities. So I don't know, Nihaya or Dipinder, Tuhin, and Nia Vijay, if you want to add a last comment, or from myself, thank you very much for your time, your suggestions, and especially since you have 90 hours work per week.
That's in advertising.
Okay. Well, but to add 1 hour for a webinar, it's very appreciated, and I hope it was useful for the students and the young alumni that are following us. I don't know if you want to conclude or add something.
I would just say, if any of you want to get in touch, as Tuhin mentioned, or any of your friends, then we should find a digital way of connecting. So feel free to reach out, and I'm sure all of us would be very happy to help you with your questions. And if you do come here, then warm welcome, and then in integrating whatever you need once you are here.
Lovely.
Yeah, I mean, that's
just
something about India. If you have made up your mind to come, just reach out to us. We'll make it happen for you.
I mean, I would just say that we are quite diverse. You can see the panel around the room. Most of us speak different maternal tongues. The language changes slightly every 10 kilometers in India, which is fascinating in this country. Diversities in terms of our culture, our food, the way we look. I mean, it's just come here to explore a country that is absolutely stunning and is going to add so much to your learning in a very good way. And I don't see any Sciences Po students struggling in India ever. So I don't see that this lot is going to be an exception. So I think you're going to enjoy India a lot.
Thank you. I'm a security professional, so I'm going to stress a little bit on security point that whether you're studying to study, coming to study or to work, do your research. And I'm sure all of us are super capable of finding our own way, but definitely leverage your network. I highly recommend that. Keep people informed, keep the embassy informed, and seek out information publicly. Everyone is very helpful, but try to leverage your network. That is going to be your strength while you're in India.
Just the last bit, that we are known for our hospitality. We have warm personalities. Indians, I feel this is something that I can confidently generalize, that we are very welcoming. We like welcoming guests. So I think you would find very helpful people around, sometimes overly helpful as well. but you will find help easily in India.
Great.
Thank you so much. It was really lovely meeting you all.
Thanks to
The
you.
pleasure was all ours.
And hopefully see you soon. And let us know when the next after work or event will take place in Delhi, and we will invite all alumni there.
No, Camila, you come and organize it here from Delhi. We'll go on from Delhi.
Come. Yeah.
The Bangalore crowd will not like it, of course. Then we'll have to invite Neha as well to Delhi. Who's going to inhale our pollution, not us. We want more people to inhale it for us.
Great. Thanks to everyone, and have a lovely evening in Delhi and in Bangalore or whatever.
Cayman Islands.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bon
All
appetit,
right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. And thanks for organizing this. And thanks to everybody who joined in. Thank you.